The last time I was here, I talked about how hurt people. And the point of that was to say that the cycle continues until someone puts a stop to it and intentionally breaks the cycle. So for this not just to be ramblings that are, smooth sounding, good feeling giving things, which I would love them to be, I also want to put some gems in here that I find very useful in my own life and definitely have helped me get through immense pain and trauma, heartbreak, whatever else I'll get into as I talk some more. I think it's some of these processes that I'm describing over this audio that have helped me to maintain a good way of seeing life, I'd say. I wanted to continue to be more expressed in my life. I want the results to show more and more, for sure. So that's not saying that I know everything about it. This is a learning process for me. This is a healing process for me. I just want to invite you along with it, and I hope you're a supportive, curious audience. I think if you're listening to this, you're probably someone that these thoughts track along with in some way. And I expect that it will be things that give you a good, calm sense. What I want to go into is specific ways of how to refresh yourself. I think what made this relevant for me was wondering, how do you go through difficult things without letting it change who you are at heart? How do you go through difficult things without letting it make you a more negative, scared, fragile, or hurtful kind of person? Even just to feel good so that people around you can benefit from that feeling good. In my own life, that was important because for a while, it was like being a bit of a zombie around people that I loved. And that is pain because they don't have a way to separate how you're feeling about a situation or about stress or about things that are going on in your own personal life to things that have to do with them. So a lot of times, either they'd be getting some negative byproduct of what you're going through, or they just began a lack of information, a lack of communication. They began a void in a presence. You're there, but you're not really there. I think apart from relationships, it's also in being a good boss and in doing good work, in knowing how to handle pressure and stress without transmitting it onto the people that you work with. Can you make decisions that are new without them being impacted by what you went through, what that felt like? Because a natural thing for the brain to do is to make heuristics, is to make connections to past situations, to inform how to look, assess, and react to this new situation that you see in front of you. Can you see this new situation and see the nuances in it as different from what you saw before. I used to think about people with certain roles that had a lot of responsibility or a lot of stress or seeing a lot of hard things like soldiers or detectives, therapists. Just growing up, this is what I used to think about. I used to wonder how you do that and be able to be a human after and be late. That's something that was important to me. It's still important because we need these roles in society. I don't know if you think about your surgeon having a bad day, being distracted, like while they're reaching for the scapula, like, okay, please sort that out before. I don't think you want your pilot, same thing. So I think that's in those roles, there are protocols that they go through, but people are still human. Humans are still human. So I think about this show that I used to watch called Homeland. And in this show, there was a character named Carrie. And Carrie is a great character. Carrie is actually someone that you love her intentions, like her dedication. Just if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. They made Carrie such a stressed out character. She was bug-eyed and she was constantly frazzled. But she could still do the work. She was still doing the work, but she definitely was not in the best state. So I used to think about that. Like, how do you deal with stress? How do you deal with hard things? Stop its rough effects on you. Keep refreshed and live a great quality life and still have the ability to do what you need to do. It's actually having your own routine and process internally to take from what you've experienced the good, filter out the bad, and push the bad out of your system. So that, for me, is in multiple ways. But the important thing is to have it conscious that there is a way, a process, things that you do to actually achieve that result predictably. Whatever you start off with, the toolkit that you develop can make a difference in your life for quality. So this way you can do all that you need to do and you're not hampered. Sometimes there's this thing where it feels like, if you're calm like that and you refresh yourself like that, then people just think it's an abundant source and they kind of want to test it. So I'm also learning to say, hey, this might be an abundant source. It might be an abundant source, but please don't test it. So, it's not even a thing of asking or pleading anymore. It's just a thing of boundaries. So we'll talk about that in a later episode. For now, let's get back to specifically what does it look like to have a process that helps you refresh. I think it's taking time to build these internal structures. Don't want to make that sound complicated, but they really seem to me like internal structures that act as a filter and also a defined practice to change my state and alleviate my body physically. What that looks like is physically a practice of breathing and moving my body in ways to move out the bad stuff, the stresses, the trauma, the effects of those. I got more awareness on fascia structural integration. Let me not just be throwing out terms, but TRE, these are things that came over time as I was really searching for answers to chronic pain, to discomfort, and I got direction. I got a sense of solution from focusing. I got a sense of solution from focusing on connective tissue, on alignment, on breathing, and paying attention to the central nervous system, and actually incorporating ways to relax, to rest. But physically, most especially, it ends up seeming like TRE, trauma release exercises, that are what I do. And if you don't know about these, it may look really weird. If you're gonna Google or YouTube, just know it may look really weird. So the way I intuitively started doing it was much slower version of that was more isolated and projected. You would see it as me clicking parts of my body by breathing and then isolating a part of my body, pinning it to the ground or to the wall, working together to give myself a self-adjustment. That's what it is actually. It was being able to give myself something like adjustment anytime I needed it. Then over time, I came across Dr. Peter Levine's work, Tom Myers, Dr. Ida Rolf, Dr. Abhinav from the Mike Tyson show. I related to a lot of his story, and I got to see how these things play together. Then also seeing in nature the examples of animals doing it, and then finally stumbling across TRE. This kind of intelligence is a physical kind of intelligence that intuitively changes the state of your body and mind. And I reckon what keeps some people away from the benefits of those things is just how different it looks. So it may seem very vulnerable and awkward to put yourself in a position to look that silly. So it's partly for the people who are genuinely curious as to how it works, and for people who could see themselves needing it as well. I don't recommend just doing it from watching people do it, because I think where you get the real benefit is from an understanding for yourself as to how to make it happen and what it does. So I know that I was driven by the results of feeling an improvement, feeling where it made an impact on my body. So what I ended up with was just a thing that looked, I could then visually match it and recognize, I was like, hold on, this is actually very similar to what I'm doing. The next thing for me is refreshing the mind. This is in continuously watching, listening, and interacting with things and people that build up your faith, your confidence, your peace, your calmness, your joy, your richness, your smoothness, your attributes that you want more of. And you can starve out the stuff that brings out the negative. It's not everything external that you can control, but you can filter. This is Relaxed Fit. Thank you so much for making it to the second episode. See you next time.